Hello, and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. This one is something that I didn't really think was going to work at first, but I think it's actually really good. So if you've been following and doing the live weekly warm-ups for the past few weeks, then you know that we've done a lot of sort of mixing and mingling of changing long tones into articulation or scales and technique into long tones and vice versa, and sort of mixing things around just to show that you can play any notes that you want. As long as you're focusing on the right thing, then you'll be getting the right things that you need to get out of these exercises. It's not about the actual notes you play, it's about how you play them. And I hope that's a good lesson that you're sort of taking away from this and applying in your own practicing. So when I was thinking about the different combinations between the 3-step warm-ups to sort of change things around, the one that I wasn't sure would work is doing articulation as long tones. Because if you think about the scale articulation, for example, that doesn't really work as a long tone. It just wouldn't work. Like if you played scale articulations and just turned it into long tones, then you would just end up with scale long tones. There wouldn't be any difference between scale long tones and scale articulation as long tones. So what I'm doing a little different is doing long tone articulation, meaning that the actual articulation part is also a long tone, which I'll explain in a second. I see Randy just commented that I know your clarinet professor, Dr. Razy. Yes, I do know Dr. Razy. We went to, well, she was doing her master's at the University of Denver when I was doing my bachelor's. She's fantastic, and you're lucky to have a good clarinet professor. But anyways, with this long tone articulation, the way that it's going to work is actually the tonguing process. It's going to be a little bit slower and more long tone like as well. And we're going to shift the focus. So remember, the whole point of this little few week series that I've been doing is that what you're playing, if you change the focus, it changes the kind of exercise. So articulation is normally where you focus on still having a good sound, but the main focus is on the tongue motion, how your tongue is actually articulating and interacting with the reed, and really focused on consistency of note shape and tonguing. A long tone is focused on sound quality, and I usually like to think of 3 distinct parts of the note. So the start of the note, the sustain of the note, and the finish to the note. And that's a perfect thing to be thinking about in terms of note shape, because that's what note shape is how the note starts, how the note sustains, and how the note ends. So I originally didn't think this would work, but actually connecting long tones and articulation is a much more natural fit than I first thought of. So what we're going to do is take our normal scale articulation and do a few notes. It can be 4. Again, because it's long tones, it might make sense to do less or maybe more if you want to make them sound better and get more consistent. But we're going to take our long tones or we're going to take the scale articulation and just hold each note longer, put a little bit more focus on the sound from start all the way to finish. So it might sound something like this. And I'll just stop there, but you could keep going higher if you want. This would be a great exercise to work on in the higher register as well to get more consistency to your articulation. And the goal here is to pay really, really, really close attention, not so much to how your tongue's moving, but more towards how the note actually sounds. So if I was doing this in the higher register, you might hear things like this. So you hear how there was a wide variety of note starts. Some of them sort of bent up, some of them sort of exploded out, some of them were sort of that football shape. And that's not the goal. So if you're getting that, then that's something that's an issue with the sound, and you need to change something about how you're playing. Maybe keeping the embouchure a little more relaxed, a little more steady, maybe having a little bit more air support going, maybe changing the way that your tongue is touching the reed. But when you shift the focus to holding the notes nice and long, taking your time to listen to the starts and the ends of notes, then you'll be able to make a big difference in how these actually come out and how your articulation will sound once it goes faster. Just like when we have a fast technical exercise where we might rush through something and it doesn't sound very clean, and then we slow it down and we realize all the issues that are making it unclean. This is the same idea, but for articulation, where when we long tonify the articulation, we're able to see the issues, see what's going wrong. Is it the start of the note? Is it the actual sustain of the note? Is it the end of the note? Where is the issue? And then since you're going in a long tone fashion, you have time to make those adjustments and change the things that need to be changed. So I hope that that has been helpful. If you have any questions about this exercise, as always, leave them in the comments. And I think this will be the last one of this sort of cross-genre. It doesn't matter what you're playing, it matters how you're playing. And next week, I'm going to actually be doing a demonstration of how to do long tones incorrectly. And I'll start another little series of warm-up videos about what not to do, which I think will be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching this week's live weekly warm-up. Try this exercise. I promise you will hear all kinds of issues in your articulation that you did not realize were there, and hopefully you'll be able to make adjustments and fix it. And then tune in next week for the start of the What Not to Do series.